Respect is not a gift. It is not a courtesy. It is not something that arrives because you were kind, patient, or morally correct. Respect is taken. It is extracted under pressure. And Machiavelli understood this before you were ever taught the opposite. You were raised inside a lie that benefits everyone except you. A lie that says respect is earned through goodness, through compliance, through being agreeable, through waiting your turn. This lie is comforting. It makes weak systems feel fair. It makes powerless people feel hopeful, but it does not describe reality. It anesthetizes you while others climb over your silence. Watch closely how the world actually moves. Respect does not flow upward from gratitude. It flows downward from consequence. People do not respect what is kind. They respect what can affect them, what can deny them, what can impose cost. This is not philosophy. This is biology wearing a social mask. In every hierarchy, from animals to empires, respect is calibrated by threat and utility. The wolf that bares its teeth is respected before the one that waits to be liked. The ruler who can punish is respected before the one who begs for harmony. The human nervous system is not impressed by words. It is impressed by signals of dominance, boundaries, and unpredictability. You feel this instinctively, even if you deny it. Notice how your tone changes around certain people. Notice how careful you become. Notice how you measure your words. That is respect, and it did not come from their kindness. It came from their presence. Machiavelli saw that societies pretend to run on virtue, but are governed by fear, perception, and power. He warned that those who rely on goodwill alone will always be betrayed by it, because goodwill has no teeth. It cannot enforce itself, and what cannot enforce itself is eventually ignored. The most dangerous mistake you can make is believing respect is permanent. It is not. It is rented, and the rent is paid daily in signals. The moment you stop signaling strength, the moment you soften your edges too much, the moment you show that consequences will not follow disrespect, the social body recalibrates, quietly, efficiently, ruthlessly. This is why polite men are interrupted, why agreeable people are overlooked, why those who wait to be acknowledged are never seen. They are not hated, they are simply irrelevant, and irrelevance is the opposite of power. You do not command respect by explaining yourself, you lose it. You do not command respect by overgiving, you dilute it. You do not command respect by asking for fairness, you expose weakness. Respect is taken when others feel, at a subconscious level, that crossing you would be costly, uncertain, or uncomfortable. This is not about shouting, it is not about cruelty, it is about control of perception. The predator does not roar constantly, it stands still, it watches, it moves only when necessary. Its power is assumed, not advertised. When you are too available, you signal low value. When you tolerate small violations, you invite larger ones. When you rush to prove yourself, you communicate that you are beneath judgment. The human mind is always ranking, always measuring, always deciding who leads and who adapts. And here is the uncomfortable truth. If you are not being respected, it is because you have trained people not to, not through words, but through patterns, through what you allow, through what you ignore, through what you forgive without consequence. Machiavelli's first law is not moral, it is mechanical. Power respects power. Everything else is decoration. And once you see this, you can never unsee it, because every interaction becomes a test, every pause becomes a message, every concession becomes a signal. The question is not whether you want respect, the question is whether you are willing to stop begging for it and start embodying the conditions that force it. Because once respect is taken, everything else follows. Influence, authority, silence when you speak, attention when you enter. But taking it requires shedding illusions, and that is where most people retreat. This is only the threshold. If respect is taken, not given, then the next truth becomes unavoidable. Someone is always taking it from you when you are not taking it yourself. Power is never neutral. It is either advancing or retreating, and most people retreat without ever realizing they chose to. You were conditioned to confuse restraint with virtue, to believe silence is maturity, to believe endurance earns admiration. But endurance without leverage is submission, and submission, no matter how noble it feels, trains others to step closer, speak louder, and demand more. This is how hierarchies form invisibly, not through declarations, but through micro-victories. Someone interrupts you, and you let it pass. Someone disrespects your time, and you accommodate. Someone crosses a boundary, and you rationalize it. Each time, the balance shifts, slightly, almost politely, until one day your position is decided and you never remember agreeing to it. The human mind is a prediction engine. It studies behavior to determine limits. When it sees no consequence, it concludes there is no danger. When it senses danger, even faintly, it adjusts. Respect lives in that adjustment. Machiavelli understood that people are loyal only while loyalty is useful. The moment obedience becomes safer than respect, they choose safety. This is why rulers who rely on love alone fall. Love evaporates under pressure. Fear remains. Not terror, not chaos, controlled fear, the awareness that actions have weight. You see this dynamic everywhere if you stop moralizing it. The employee who is technically competent but endlessly accommodating becomes invisible. The one who is less skilled but firm, decisive, and difficult to exploit rises, not because the system is unfair, but because the system is biological. Your nervous system does not respect kindness, it appreciates it. There is a difference. Appreciation fades, respect imprints. Predators do not chase endlessly, they let prey reveal weakness. Humans are no different. When you over-explain, you reveal uncertainty. When you seek validation, you reveal dependence. When you negotiate your boundaries, you reveal they are optional. This is why silence is often more powerful than speech. Silence forces projection. It unsettles, it removes information, and humans fear what they cannot read. Fear sharpens attention. Attention creates respect. The mistake weak individuals make is assuming respect comes from being understood. It does not. Understanding invites debate. Debate invites challenge. Challenge invites erosion. Power is not interested in being understood. It is interested in being unquestioned. This is where most people recoil. They confuse dominance with immorality, but dominance is simply clarity enforced. It is the refusal to be reshaped by others' expectations. It is knowing when to speak and when to withhold, when to give and when to deny. Machiavelli warned that generosity without calculation is self-destruction, because what is given freely is valued cheaply. What is scarce is protected. Respect follows the same law. The more you seek it, the less it costs others to withhold it. Observe how people treat those who tolerate disrespect for peace. They are used as buffers, shock absorbers, emotional labor. Their reward is exhaustion and invisibility. Meanwhile, those who create friction, who introduce discomfort when crossed, are labeled difficult but treated carefully. Carefully, that word matters. Respect does not require affection. In fact, affection often undermines it. When people like you too much, they feel entitled to you. When they are unsure where they stand, they watch themselves. This is the inversion most never make. You are not respected because you are valuable. You are respected because you are dangerous to cross. Not violently, strategically, socially, psychologically. Once you accept this, your behavior changes. You stop rushing. You stop filling silence.
You stop absorbing disrespect quietly. You allow others to feel the tension of their choices, and tension is where power lives. But this shift comes with risk. When you withdraw unearned warmth, when you enforce boundaries, when you stop explaining yourself, weaker minds will call you cold, arrogant, difficult. Let them. Labels are weapons used by those who lack leverage. What matters is not how you are described, but how you are treated. And treatment is the only honest measure of respect. You are now close to the mechanism itself, the part most never see. But seeing it is not enough. You must understand why it works at the deepest level, or you will hesitate when it matters most.
Respect is not a social invention. It is an evolutionary reflex. Long before language, before laws, before morality, organisms learned one rule: identify what can harm you and adjust accordingly. That reflex never left. It only learned how to wear suits and speak politely. Your brain does not ask, "Is this person good?" It asks, "Can this person affect my outcome?" That calculation happens instantly, beneath consciousness, and once it is made, everything else follows: tone, posture, deference, or disregard. This is why Machiavelli distrusted appearances. He knew humans pretend to be ethical while acting on instinct. They praise humility while rewarding dominance. They condemn power while orbiting it. They speak of fairness while exploiting weakness the moment it is safe. When you remove morality from the equation, the system becomes clear. Respect is a survival response. It emerges when the mind perceives constraint, when it senses that certain actions will not be tolerated. The predator-prey dynamic is not about violence, it is about asymmetry. The predator controls the encounter, the prey reacts. In social hierarchies, the one who controls pace, information, and emotional temperature occupies the dominant position. The one who reacts is subordinate. Notice who sets the frame in conversations, who decides when things end, who withholds approval, who remains calm while others justify. These are not accidents, they are signals of rank. Most people try to earn respect by increasing output, more effort, more generosity, more reliability. They believe usefulness creates safety. It does not. It creates dependence, and dependence invites exploitation. Machiavelli observed that those who are always needed are rarely respected. They are managed, replaced when convenient, discarded when no longer useful. Respect belongs to those who can withdraw, not those who cling. Withdrawal creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates attention. Attention creates leverage. This is why scarcity is powerful, not artificial scarcity, behavioral scarcity. The ability to say no without explanation, the ability to remain composed when others escalate, the ability to walk away while others negotiate. The nervous system reads these behaviors as strength, because strength is not aggression, it is self-sufficiency. Think carefully. Who do you respect more, the person who needs approval or the person who can deny it? The answer is immediate and uncomfortable. This is why respect cannot be requested. Requests imply permission. Permission implies lower rank. Once you ask, the hierarchy is already set. The other person decides whether to grant or withhold, and the moment they can withhold, they hold power. Machiavelli warned against placing yourself in a position where others can feel generous toward you. Generosity is dominance disguised as kindness. When someone grants you respect, they feel superior. When you take it, they feel constrained. Constraint is the root of order. The modern world teaches you to soften yourself, to be accepted.
But acceptance is not respect. Acceptance is conditional tolerance. It disappears the moment conditions change. Respect persists because it is anchored in consequence. This is why politeness fails as a strategy. Politeness is a social lubricant, not a power structure. It makes interaction smoother, but it does not determine who yields when interests collide. And interests always collide. When they do, the one with clearer boundaries wins. The one willing to create discomfort wins. The one who can endure being disliked wins. Most people cannot endure that. They fear social friction more than loss of power, so they trade long-term authority for short-term peace, and peace becomes their cage. You can feel this tension now, the pull between who you have been trained to be and who the system rewards. This is not a motivational crossroads, it is a biological one. To take respect, you must be willing to let others feel uneasy, to let silence hang, to let disappointment land, to let disapproval exist without rushing to erase it. This is where the weak retreat. They call it integrity, they call it kindness, but beneath the language is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of standing alone. Machiavelli would say this plainly: power is lonely, and that loneliness is its price. But loneliness is also freedom. You are now approaching the point where understanding turns into decision, because once you know why respect works this way, you can no longer pretend ignorance. The only question left is whether you will act when tested. And you will be tested.
You are now standing at the threshold where most people hesitate, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack nerve. Knowing how power works is one thing, using it is another. And this is where Machiavelli separates observers from operators. Respect is enforced through behavior, not declarations. The moment you attempt to announce your strength, you reveal insecurity. Strength that must be explained is already weakened. Power is felt before it is understood. This is why the most dominant individuals rarely correct disrespect verbally. They correct it structurally, through withdrawal, through consequences, through a subtle shift that forces recalibration. The offender feels the loss before they understand the mistake. This is conditioning. Human behavior is shaped by reward and deprivation. When access is removed, when warmth is withdrawn, when cooperation becomes uncertain, the nervous system searches for cause. And in that search, respect is born. Not admiration, alignment. Most people make the fatal error of responding emotionally. They confront, they justify, they escalate verbally. This creates noise. Noise invites negotiation. Negotiation implies equality. Equality erodes hierarchy. Machiavelli advised restraint not because he valued peace, but because restraint preserves ambiguity. Ambiguity forces others to think, to doubt, to self-regulate. The more you explain, the less they have to. The strongest position is not to dominate loudly, but to be the axis around which others adjust. Watch how powerful figures behave when challenged. They do not rush to defend, they pause. That pause is not emptiness, it is pressure. Silence forces the challenger to feel exposed, to question their own move. This is not accidental, it is mastery of tempo. Tempo is power. Whoever controls the pace controls the outcome. Fast reactions are for those who are chasing. Slow responses belong to those being watched. When you answer immediately, you reward intrusion. When you delay, you introduce cost. When you remain calm, you deny emotional leverage. And emotional leverage is the primary weapon of the weak. This is where politeness becomes a liability.
Politeness prioritizes comfort over clarity. It smooths over violations instead of marking them. Over time, this teaches others that you absorb friction, that you are safe to test. Respect requires the opposite. It requires selective discomfort, not constant hostility, but precise signals that certain lines exist and are defended. You do not need to threaten. Threats reveal anxiety. You simply need to act as though consequences are obvious, because obvious consequences do not need explanation. This is why consistency matters. Inconsistent enforcement teaches people to gamble. Consistency teaches them to comply automatically. Respect thrives in predictability paired with firmness. But here is the danger Machiavelli warned about. Power attracts challenge. The moment you stop being pliable, some will push back. Not because you are wrong, but because they benefited from your weakness. They will test you emotionally, accuse you of changing, of becoming cold, of thinking too highly of yourself. These are not observations, they are tactics, designed to pull you back into the old role where you were easier to manage. If you flinch, you lose ground. If you explain, you lose frame. If you apologize for enforcing boundaries, you erase them. This is the crucible, the moment where respect is either taken permanently or surrendered again. Most people fail here. They mistake discomfort for danger. They retreat to familiarity, and the hierarchy snaps back into place, stronger than before. But if you hold, if you allow the tension to exist, if you do not rush to be liked, something shifts. Others adjust, quietly, subconsciously. They speak differently. They ask instead of assume. They hesitate before crossing. That hesitation is respect. It is not loud, it is not praised, but it is felt. You are now one step away from the final inversion, the point where respect stops being something you chase and becomes something that surrounds you naturally. But this final step demands a ruthless honesty most people avoid, because it requires letting go of the identity that kept you safe. There is a final illusion you must destroy before respect becomes permanent. The illusion that you can be powerful and universally liked. That you can take respect without costing anyone comfort. That you can rise without someone feeling diminished. This illusion is the last chain. Machiavelli was explicit about this, even if people soften his words. Power creates enemies by default, not because you are cruel, but because hierarchy offends those who benefit from ambiguity. The moment you become solid, you expose who was leaning on you. Respect stabilizes only when you accept this without resentment. The strongest individuals do not seek to be understood. They seek to be clear, and clarity is confrontational by nature. It draws lines, it ends confusion, it removes wiggle room. People who thrived in your uncertainty will resist this violently, emotionally, or subtly. You must let them. Here is the inversion. When you stop chasing respect, it accelerates towards you. When you stop explaining yourself, others start explaining themselves to you. When you stop smoothing friction, people handle you carefully. This is not mysticism, it is behavioral economics applied to the nervous system. Humans invest attention where stakes exist. They defer where consequence is possible. They respect what does not need them. The moment your presence feels optional to you, but consequential to others, the hierarchy locks in. This is why inner strength matters more than external display. If you secretly need approval, you will leak it through micro-behaviors, over-availability, nervous laughter, excessive politeness. People read these cues instantly, not consciously, instinctively. To take respect, your internal posture must change before your external behavior does. You must genuinely accept that some connections will weaken, some doors will close, some people will drift away. This is not loss, it is sorting. Weak systems collapse when pressure is applied. Strong systems reorganize. When you apply pressure by enforcing boundaries, withdrawing unearned warmth, and refusing to negotiate your worth, the social environment reorganizes around you. Some leave, some submit, some adapt. That is power. The final test is consistency under isolation. When the room goes quiet, when invitations pause, when feedback disappears, this is where most people panic and revert. They mistake silence for rejection. It is not rejection, it is recalibration. Those who matter are reassessing. Those who exploited you are disengaging. Those who respect strength are watching. Hold. Respect does not announce itself, it settles in. Conversations change. Requests replace demands. Apologies appear without being asked for. You are consulted instead of instructed. Your absence is noticed. And most importantly, your presence is felt. At this stage, you no longer think in terms of taking respect. You think in terms of maintaining structure. Because once the hierarchy is set, maintenance is subtle, calm, almost invisible. This is where Machiavelli's true lesson lives. Power is quiet when it is real. It does not posture, it does not plead, it does not moralize. It simply exists, and others adjust. If you misuse this knowledge, you become brittle, paranoid, aggressive. That is not strength, that is insecurity wearing armor. True dominance is relaxed, grounded, economical. You speak less, you observe more, you move deliberately, you allow others to reveal themselves. And here is the final truth. Respect is not something you add to your life. It is something that appears when weakness is removed. When you stop tolerating what erodes you, when you stop trading authority for comfort, when you stop mistaking kindness for safety. This knowledge is not for everyone. Most will hear it and retreat back into politeness, hoping the world will reward them eventually. It will not. But a few will recognize what this is, an initiation, a separation, a lens that cannot be removed once worn. If you are one of those few, you already know what to do next. Those who choose clarity over comfort, dominance over approval, and power over illusion do not wander randomly. They gather deliberately. Enter that circle now.